Welcome to Transcendent. I'm Joe, and I'm the dad.
And I'm Raya, and I'm the daughter.
This episode is a message to anti-LGBTQ advocates everywhere. We get it. Raya and I were with you. We were like that once ourselves.
The Bible says there's two sexes. And when people try to come against that, it's cutting at the very foundation of what God created. You see children being led astray to think that gender is fluid, and instead of being taught truth and values that really matter, they're just being confused. You feel like you're being asked to lie by calling a man she and pretending that someone can be different than what they were born as. You feel like your religious liberty is being trampled, that you're being asked, maybe even forced, to accept things that don't seem right. You look at marriage and you see one man and one woman is not just tradition, but this is God's plan. And that children actually need a mother and a father. And then you look at the LGBTQ plus community and you don't see health and life. You see mentally ill people. And you feel like affirming that might be a little bit like telling an anorexic person that they're fat. You're not doing anybody any favors. You're not helping. Now, you're not trying to be hateful. You want to protect children, and you're willing to show that tough love. You're not willing to affirm delusion. We get it. We really do. We used to believe the same thing. We want to show you what changed our minds and why it might change yours too.
We want you to consider several things that we think are important. We want what you want. We want love, safety, family, purpose. These are not LGBTQ plus dreams or our own little manifest. They're what everybody wants. We want the same things. In fact, we are all the same people. We're not a segment that's different from you. We are all the same.
I get frustrated sometimes when I see the anti-LGBTQ people being portrayed as if what motivates them is hate and anger. When I know how I lived for 2 decades as somebody that legitimately believed what I was saying, I never thought of myself as hateful. And all we're asking for is for you to listen to us and recognize that neither are we trying to destroy the fabric of society. We all want love and for everyone to get along. LGBTQ plus people exist right now. We're not going away, and we always have existed. We've been around forever. The only thing that has happened is now we have language and words to describe our experience. And now more people are coming out. So a lot more people like me that was in the closet for 40 years have now recognized it's safe to finally come out and be myself.
Just like me, I'm left-handed. You might think you can't compare the two. Oh, I absolutely can, for a variety of reasons. Number one, did you know that there are about the same percentage of left-handers in the world as there are people who are LGBTQ+, which is kind of interesting. It's about the same number of people. And did you know also that there are countries where they really reject left-handers? They force them to use their right hand. They force them to eat right-handed. They force them to swing a baseball bat right-handed, even today. But that doesn't mean it's right to have them think that way. We're all normal. This is another part of the normal.
It's a part of our identity, and you can deny that part of our identity, but you cannot erase our humanity or our history.
What exactly do people fear? I remember back when I was part of your group that I felt a little uncomfortable around people who were LGBTQ. maybe I did have some fear because I was rooted in all this misinformation. I thought maybe they'd want to try to come after me or try to convert me or something like that. I don't know of anybody who thinks I might try to convert them to be left-handed.
Right.
Although I think it's a good idea.
Right. And you hear, when I talk about how much misinformation there is, we are trying to be the bridge to help people get along. And when you hear people giving misinformation about your beliefs, how upset that makes you feel. And we're just saying, please understand that some of what you may be believing about us in the LGBTQ plus community may be also rooted in misinformation or in fear or possibly even a desire to control us. I believe the best about you, but there are people that want to work this to be as hurtful as they can because they can score political points. We're just asking for a fair hearing.
I was like that, and I understand where you are. If there's any fear to anybody in the LGBTQ plus community or fear of anyone who is an ally, you may be able to point to someone and use an example. Why would that be if I'm telling you there is no concern? It is because we are all the same. Is there a reason to fear some of the people in the LGBTQ plus community? I don't think so. Any more than there is a reason for us to fear people in society that doesn't accept LGBTQ plus people. Does it mean there aren't some people out there that I could point to that have created problems? Of course there are. Are there people in the LGBTQ plus community that have created problems or have a reason for us to be concerned about them? Of course there are. But that's because we are all alike. We are all human beings, and the same percentage of people who created problems in your area are the same percentage of people in our area because we are all one.
We in the LGBTQ community are not asking for permission to be human. We are reclaiming our dignity and our self-worth. I saw a Charlie Kirk video just yesterday or maybe 2 days ago where he was confronting an LGBTQ activist talking about transgender people. And he said, look at this. Look, if you want to live how you want to live, that's fine. You do you. But I object when your rights are trampling on mine. And why are men in women's locker rooms? And why are men playing women's sports? And he used these issues to try to take away from the core issue. And the person that sent me this said, what do you think about this? And I came back and I said, I didn't want to get into a big argument. I said, look, I don't use the women's locker room and I don't play women's sports. So I'm glad we agree. You can go ahead and treat me with the dignity that I deserve as a human being. If we really play by that, rather than trying to score political points, and we just say, we're going to treat one another with love and respect and dignity. That's all we're asking for. But we're not asking for your permission because we're tired of it. And we're going to live as we are, as our true, authentic selves. We deserve equal rights because we are equal.
The next point, religion is not a weapon. I was a member of a conservative church for many, many years. We winter in another state, and there I continued to go to a very conservative church. Do I agree with everything they said? No. Do I agree with everything in my home church today? No. If I did find a church where I agreed with everything,
you'd be the only member.
That's right. And I know that We don't have to agree with that all. But here's what I think we do agree with. All of us in all the churches I've attended and the people, what we agree with is that faith and love are not at odds. Faith and love are the same. God doesn't reject us. People do. Humans do. They're rejecting people in the LGBT community, not God. God is love. God preaches love. And really, that's what it's all about. It doesn't take a lot to be a person who is accepting religion as it is, but it takes a lot to accept every single part of it. And each in our own mind has some things we break out. That doesn't make me wrong and you right, or me right and you wrong. It makes us human. No two people agree on every single part of every religion. It just doesn't happen. God made us that way, and that's okay.
I think of what happened in Acts chapter 11, and I'm sure you remember this passage. It was really an important moment in the church. So if you're a Bible believer and you've read through the book of Acts, this is going to be very familiar for you. This is the part where they were trying to figure out, what do we do with these Gentiles? Because up until this point, the church had been exclusively Jewish. And God spoke to the Apostle Peter at this time and told him, go accept these Gentile people. And Peter said, wait a minute. There's all kinds of problems, and I've read the Bible, and I know that this is not what God has said. We're supposed to be circumcised. We don't live like the Gentiles. There's supposed to be a division. This was set up by God, that we would have a holiness, that we would be set apart as God's people. And here, God's wanting me to accept these people. Peter gives this whole thing. And then he says, in Acts chapter 11, verse 17, therefore, if God gave to them the same gift as he gave also to us after believing, then who was I that I could stand in God's way? And I think we have a lot of people today that are claiming to be Bible believers that maybe have never even read this passage, have never even read through their whole Bibles and recognize how the entire New Testament is a book of love and acceptance and openness and care and concern and compassion. And anything less than that is not the true message of the Bible.
Hi, I'm Andy Barrett, a Lutheran pastor and a supporter of this podcast. I see Transcendent as a ministry. I've pointed many people toward these recorded conversations full of so much heart and care and warmth, as well as some of Joe's jokes, which are hands down the worst part of this podcast. But even they make me smile. I'm one of the many genuinely blessed by Transcendent, and I encourage you to join me in supporting this podcast by giving as little as $3 a month. Go to transcendent.com and click support.
Look at the cost of your hate. You don't even consider it hate. Imagine what your words can do and your policies do. They cause depression. They cause homelessness. They cause suicide. And if your hate is causing suicide, I might define that as murder. I read a book many years ago called The Troll Circle. There was a woman who moved to another community that was segregated from the rest of society. And all the other ladies gossiped about her and did terrible things. They hated her to the point where she ultimately threw herself off the cliff. They murdered her. Are we doing that to our own people? And for what reason? Because you're going to feel more comfortable that you put them in their place.
When I was anti-LGBTQ, I remember being very offended when people would tell me that I was giving a message of hate, because I would say, I've carefully thought through my position. I know exactly why I believe what I believe, and I'm trying to help people here. And yet, when I look now at the ignorance that I had, I just literally didn't know. I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I discover the entire psychological community has consensus on this, that LGBTQ people are not mentally ill. And when I transitioned so that I could live my most authentic life, I was not embracing a mental illness. I was instead becoming my most authentic self.
Anti-LGBTQ rhetoric causes harm. Dramatic, terrible harm.
Those of us in the LGBTQ community have always been here. We're not just people on the margins. We raised you. We taught you. We served you. I can look back when I was going to school at some of my teachers and I think, oh, sure, of course. They were part of the LGBTQ community all along.
But in the closet.
Quite probably in the closet. And I know I was one of those. I was your pastor. I preach every single Sunday from the Bible, trying to encourage people to live God's word. And yet that whole time, here I was in the closet. I remember a good friend that I told in the church, God does not want you to be gay. And years later, I found him again, and I said, I am so sorry for what I told you. We have always been among you. We've always been here. And you think, I don't know anyone like that. We are everywhere. But you don't realize it, and you don't realize how much you're hurting us when you assume that we're not there when we're invisible to you.
I was one of those people that was hurting people like that all the time, too. I understand that. I worked my way through college playing in a rock band, and there were 4 of us who were very close, very good friends. One of our band members said, we need a keyboard. So we ended up getting a guy. We were like a chocolate sundae. And he came in, he was a bottle of ketchup. And it didn't work out very well. He also was a serious alcoholic, had a lot of problems, and he really had a hard time getting along with us, and we had a hard time getting along with him. He never wanted to help us load the truck.
You'd be loading the truck, and he'd be passing the buck.
All the time. Exactly. He ultimately joined AA, and one of the things he was told in AA, that he was requested to go back and find the people that he had owed apologies to. Every one of us in the band, he contacted. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that. But what that leads me to is the fact that I was one of these people pushing the hate. I didn't think of it that way. It's not a hate, is it, when you're out there telling LGBTQ plus jokes? And by the way, I had a lot of them. I don't tell those anymore. I didn't think that I should be saying anything about the fact that there's something wrong with these people. That isn't what I used to say, that maybe there's something that just isn't connecting with them. There's some reason I ought to avoid them. They're not broken. I realize that now. They are not here to make us more comfortable by making them the brunt of our jokes.
That's right. We are not your punchline.
Exactly. It just isn't appropriate.
And once you recognize that we're there and among you, you realize every time I make that joke, I'm hurting somebody near me and I don't even know it. I
Yes.
remember a child talking about how they asked their father what he felt about LGBTQ people, and he made a joke, thinking that he was making fun of those people out there. And that child realized my dad is not a safe person. Why? All because he made a joke.
Mm-hmm. I know that.
We are not going anywhere. We've survived the closet. We've survived conversion therapy. We have survived hate crimes. We have survived terrible laws, and we are still here. We are a people of resilience and permanence. We are a people that stand strong. Why? Because we've had to. Because life has made it so difficult for us to be who we are that when we finally get to our breaking point and say, I can't do this anymore, we have tried everything possible to make this go away, and it hasn't. We are not going anywhere. We are here to stay. And we need you to understand that no matter what your anti-LGBTQ stand is or why you hold it, we are not going away.
What if your child came out? Would you still believe what you believe now? If you would have asked me that 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I said, yeah, I probably would. But you probably heard, if you've listened to this podcast a lot, I've said this many times. When Raya first came out to me, I had no idea. I was completely surprised. Prior to that, I used to share the jokes with him. Now I share the jokes with her. That's the way it is. You understand what I'm saying here? I'm saying I have totally, fully accepted her to the point where I can't say I'm accepting. I can't say I'm affirming. I can now say I am championing what Raya is doing because it's normal, it's right, it is something that makes me proud of the fact that she was able to do this. And because of that, I am thankful that she's still alive and here today. When she came out, the first thing I thought of was, in my head, I either accept it or I lose her. There is nothing in between. And that's why she will always be she from now on and never he. And that is my pledge to you, because it really, I want you to understand, we're a team. We're a team. We were a team before, and now we're a stronger team than we've ever been. And I'm here from you for as long as I'm here.
And that means so much to me. And that is why we're doing this right now. Why we believe that this message to an anti-LGBTQ advocate is so important to be heard. Because I don't know that I could have made it through that incredibly difficult time if it was not for your love and for your support, Dad.
Thank you.
That got me through where I needed to be. Now, I struggled for a long, long time with my faith trying to figure this out. And if you are in that place where you're saying, okay, Raya and Joe, I'm hearing what you have to say right now, and I understand what you're saying, but I still have these difficulties with my faith. I feel like if I become fully accepting, that I'm going to be betraying God. We actually have the perfect episode for you next week. We're going to be talking about what do you do when loving your LGBTQ plus child feels like you're betraying God? And we're going to give you some ways that you can really live that truly loving life and reconcile that with your faith. It's not an either or. It's not pick one and you have to lose the other one. You can have both.
You got a friend out there that agrees with you and feels the same way you do? Share this week's message and next week's message with them. Let them tell you where they are, what they think. Do you have friends out there that maybe have someone in their relation that they have a concern about? Share these with them.
We are here every single week with a message of positivity to help you have stronger relationships.
And with that, we'll see you Monday. Dramatic, terrible harm and hurtful harm.
All harm is hurtful.
Yeah, I guess you're right.